You're tuned in to the first episode, the pilot run for the freaking Frack show. My name is Matthew Taylor.
And I'm Caleb Bryan.
And this is just going to be a test run for our first podcast together. I think we're just going to get right into it and talk a little bit about ourselves because I'm selfish that way. Caleb, why don't you lead us off a little bit?
Well, my name is Caleb Bryan. I'm 27 years old, born and raised in good old Louisiana. And there's a lot to say about me, but the most important thing is how big of a Backstreet Boys fan I am and how long I've been a fan. Of course, it all started out when I was just a young child at maybe around 6 years old, 7 years old. What I can remember. I remember opening up magazines and seeing these guys in every single magazine, and then the whole Burger King fiasco happened, and that was truly the point of where I learned like who the Backstreet Boys were and what they were capable of producing this wonderful, amazing CD of Millennium, and it's a long story and long tale because it hasn't ended since then for them or for me.
All right. So my thing is I've been a fan since Caleb has been alive. I 27 years, going on 27 years of fandom. I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska. The only crappy part about Lincoln, Nebraska is we've never had a Backstreet Boy concert here in Lincoln. I've always had to travel to go to them. The closest one that I can remember has been Omaha last year, and then I'm going to admit this live on air. I missed the In a World Like This tour, and I was dang near in tears. I know. I was dang near in tears. But I think the biggest thing for me about being a fan is the relatableness that they have with each member. I remember opening up cassette tapes. Caleb, do you know what those are?
Yeah.
I remember opening up the cassette tape with five dudes just leaned up against the wall, all with bowl cuts, man. And so I went out and got myself a bowl cut, So this will lead us into kind of our next topic about the favorite members and why. But I come from an alcoholic family. Well, my dad's side was, I was introduced to alcoholism at a very young age, and the first time I met any of the band members was in Las Vegas on my birthday in 2018. My first concert, my first Backstreet Boy concert. And this is a funny story. We were going to check out of the hotel. We stayed at Planet Hollywood. And as we were waiting for a taxi, some lady was walking by and says, "I think that's Joey Fatone over there in the gift shop." And I turned and looked at her. I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, from the Backstreet Boys." I said, "You're crazy, lady." I'm like, "Wrong band, wrong, same era, but wrong band." And my wife looked in and she goes, "Oh my God, babe, it's AJ." I'm like, "Shut your mouth." She's like, "No, dead serious." I drop my luggage. I take off for I'm that guy, right? Trying not to be that guy, but being that guy. Drop the luggage, take off to the gift shop, and he's just talking to a group of girls, just nonchalant, just you wouldn't even know he was a celebrity. And I'm sitting there just shaking, Caleb. I'm not joking, dude. And I was like, "Hey, do you have a second?" And my wife turns and looks at me and she goes, "Don't cry." I'm like, I won't. He's like, "Yeah, I'm already here, blah, da, 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 da." And that's like the first time I realized that, bro, they're just humans. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like kind of talking to you. And I kind of gave him my story, and I was like, your music has meant so much to me. And he's like, looked at me like, "Are you here for your wife?" I'm like, no. We're here for me and you right now. I'm like, your music has meant so much to me, and it helped me get through some really dark times, And I was like, the way I look at it is, if, a celebrity can fight the demons and the alcoholism and the addiction, then I should be able to also, And he trying to look at me right in the eye, Caleb, and I just kept like looking at the ground, and I don't know. So yeah, that's AJ's always been my favorite, but and that's kind of why. Caleb, who's your favorite member of the band?
Uh, Honestly, it's gotta be Nick. You know, out of anybody, I mean, I love them all. I think I love them all equally, but my favorite is always gonna be Nick. You know, Nick is I've always been able to relate to Nick, not with you know, a broken home or anything as such, but just every line of his has just always been relatable. You know, his verses that he's given, and I need you tonight. Think, you know, I need you tonight. The one, just everything clicks with me and Nick. And so, you know, I fortunately, I was able to meet Nick for his All American tour. That was 3, 4 years ago now. It feels like forever. But I was able to meet him at the House of Blues in New Orleans, and it was, you know, he came out of his trailer 3, 4 different times out of his RV, and it was just me and this other girl sitting there because everybody else went to the alleyway to wait in the line. And it was just, you know, it was very interesting because, you know, he said no pictures and things like that, but he still came out and talked to us for a minute, 2 minutes, you know, at a time, the 3 or 4 times he came out. But he's I don't know. Just I I really dig his voice. He's got his range and what he can do and what he could do back then is very little difference, and it's truly remarkable watching and just listening to him as he sings. Because one thing about them as a band, and one thing about Nick especially, is they always try to replicate what they sounded like and what they do sound like today. You know, you watch all these bands today. You go to a concert, and you're like, all right, this is three keys dumbed down, so like sounds nothing like their real voice. You know, or nothing like the album that they were on. Or you watch something from Good Morning America album release party of a person, and you're like, this is the same person singing that song because it sounds nothing whatsoever similar. And it's just you know, I have so much respect for a person who gives it his all, and it seems like Nick and just the Backstreet Boys in general gives everything they have for these concerts that they give us. It's truly remarkable to see someone actually care, you know, and take care of themselves, you know. But it's but another thing is with AJ, I met AJ back at Comic Palooza. That was maybe 4 years ago when the boy band zombie movie came out on Sci-Fi.
Oh yeah.
Dead, and it was, you know, it was amazing because that was the first time I ever been to a Comic Con. And Comic Palooza is one of the big. It's actually the biggest in Houston, I believe, or biggest in Texas, maybe. I'm not even sure, but so they had Joey, um, they had Chris Kirkpatrick from NSYNC as well. They had AJ. They had a couple O Town members, different things like that. It was a boy band frenzy up there, and they had about 45, maybe 50 other celebrities there, including all these big Walking Dead members. But funny thing is, the boy band members had the most for the crowd and for the people wanting pictures and talking to them. And I was able to sit down. I mean, I was very fortunate to do this, but I was able to sit down with AJ for almost 20 minutes. I mean, it might have been longer than that. It felt like an eternity. But I remember like shaking and just like, you know, man, you have no idea what kind of impact you've done in my life and what you've done to me, and what the Backstreet Boys have, you know, all the all the wrong in the world, all the wrong that was done to me. Everything was right when I was in that bubble of Backstreet Boys, Backstreet Boys, Backstreet Boys. And you know, and I just remember shaking and like trying to get a picture. And he's like, "Hey, I'm just getting off my lunch break. You know, no one's here to sit down and talk to me." And I don't recall a lot of the, I don't recall a lot of the conversation, but I do recall just telling him how much like he meant to, you know, just from one man to another. And he was just the nicest, most sincere guy. He said, you know, he just sat there and said, you know, I'm truly honored, and it's amazing hearing it from a guy and hearing it from another dude is what he
Yep.
said in person. And I said, I know you get this a lot, but I'm your biggest fan.
Right, right,
you
right.
know, and it's he was so sincere about it. And I remember to get a photo with him was like $25, and he didn't charge me for the photo. Like he's like, no, he says, no, 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 it's all good, man. Let's get that photo. And
Oh, you better be careful releasing that information, man. You might have
oh, yeah,
some
that's
angry female members.
I paid 35 or
Right,
25 or
right, right.
500 or 1,000 for
A
meet and greet.
1,000 for a 30-second meet and greet. Yeah, yeah.
Man, 30 seconds, I already hear enough about the 30-second meet and greets. But no, it was a remarkable time because it was almost back to back with him and Nick. It was actually no, it was 3 or 4 months apart of meeting both. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to meet Brian or Kevin or Howie. But whenever my girlfriend and I went to Vegas, believe it or not, it was March 8th, I believe, was a show that we went to. It was the very first time I saw Backstreet Boys, and that was I mean, it's so hard to describe because I remember going there, understanding and realizing that I'm going to see the Backstreet Boys.
Dude,
And at
it
first,
almost makes you cry. Honestly.
it,
I mean, man to
it
man.
was it's an emotional thing for
I
me,
agree, dude.
especially because it's like when there was a lady on the Backstreet Boy group named Jennifer, and she said she couldn't go to the show. Her husband didn't want to stand there in the pit, so she was going to get 100 section tickets, back row, whatever. And I said, oh, I'll definitely buy them. And I remember she had did $125 for a pit right, and not understanding what was going on. I just bought them. I bought the plane ticket 2, 3 minutes later, without even realizing, how much plane tickets were, which, man, they were so cheap,
Oh,
which is
dude, to
great.
Vegas, they just try to get you there, bro. That's it,
They do. They do. And that's the crazy thing about it, because I woke up my girlfriend, I said, I bought those plane tickets, and she's like, what? Because I before this, I always swore I'd never fly anywhere. I wasn't gonna fly, I'm just not good at heights and things. And she said, what are you talking about? I'm like, we're going to see the Backstreet Boys. And so uh, when that happened, it was like 6 months beforehand. So I bought the tickets, got on the plane. We explored Vegas. Absolutely hated Vegas. Just not a gambler. Just nothing to really do unless you go out of Vegas. I'm not really into tourist stuff. So we got there, and then the next day was the concert. So we walked on the strip, all day again. And then we ended up going wait. I think it was like 4.5, 5 hours before in line. So we were like the second person there, and just sitting on the ground for 5 hours straight.
Yep.
And I remember just thinking, like, it just didn't click on me. I'm like, hey, I'm going to the Backstreet Boys. It's going to be amazing. But man, whenever they allowed everybody in, and me and my girlfriend, we were able to be on front row on the catwalk. I mean, it was absolutely remarkable and unbelievable in that moment that I was there doing that. Because my whole life I've always been trying to see the Backstreet Boys. The hardest thing about it was just not having a license or a vehicle until I was 27 years old. And it was truly just, I'm here,
Yep.
in that moment.
Yep.
I'm here, it's happening, it's unbelievable, it is truly remarkable. Like, this is it. And that's when, you get the introduction video of Vegas playing, and it's like, this is happening. This is happening. Like, no, 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 no. This is happening. And then whenever they first came from the ceiling, it was like Millennium, watching those Millennium
Yeah.
test tapes all over again.
Yeah,
And
dude.
it was truly such a remarkable moment in my life, because I remember just crying. Like, I just, you know, even the happiest songs, I just saw myself like weeping.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
so we have the almost the same exact Backstreet Boy first concert experience. We went out to
Oh,
Vegas. It was the day they dropped Chances, bro, on my birthday. It was that day that the video dropped.
that's a
So I'm
wonderful
sitting in
day.
the hotel room like at midnight or whatever, and my wife's like, they dropped it, and I'm looking at it, I'm watching it, and then it doesn't really hit you that you're going, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
we stayed at Planet Hollywood, uh and my wife's like, all right, well, I need to get ready. I'm like, well, then you better hurry the hell up because, she's like, we don't need to be there that early. I'm like, oh, yes, we do. So we went down, we sat down, she sat down, and I don't drink, right? So I got her a couple beers, and I'm like, if you have to use the bathroom, you're shit out of luck, like, but
Yeah.
then they let us in, and we were pit right, just like you. We were on the catwalk, right up against the railing. And the thing that I can still remember to this day, dude, just the like I can still smell the fog, from when the fog machine starts,
Oh, yeah.
the music, and then I got a video. I mean, I was 120 pounds heavier, so you can barely recognize me in the video. But I got a video. I'm holding it up. The lights drop. They start dropping down, and you hear me go, "Oh my God, it's fucking happening!" And my wife turns and looks at me, and I'm just like in tears, dude. It's crazy. It's nuts, dude. But with your story, it brought up three things that I wanted to talk to you about. So, um, you had told me a story, and I want you to tell anybody that's listening, the millions of people that have tuned in, right, to our podcast. You had a Nick story at Comic-Con or Comapalooza.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, did I?
Yes, you share about him
Oh, yeah.
leaving.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, yeah. A
Yeah,
Walker Stalker.
share that story.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember, so months, it was actually a couple months. So we went March to Vegas, and then we went to see them in Alpharetta, Georgia, next to Atlanta. That was in October, I believe. And yeah, actually it was. A Walker Stalker convention was happening, which is the biggest Walking Dead convention. There was like 75 cast members, like Sons of Anarchy. The whole cast was there. I mean, Lost. There was like 7 Lost members. It was insane. Like I think that was the biggest convention I've been to though out of anything. And the Backstreet Boys were playing that Saturday night, and so actually that Friday night. So Saturday, Vicky and I go to Walker Stalker Saturday and Sunday. And, for Saturday, Nick Carter is doing autographs and photos to promote his Dead Seven. And once again, and so it's like, no brainer to go. Just because I said, it'd be really, really neat to actually maybe talk to him a little more, and get a, not being told don't take a picture of him. And,
Yeah.
especially when it's just, New Orleans was just me and this other girl, like me and this girl. It was just like, come on, But I understand the man's got to make his money.
Right, right,
But
right.
you know, um, so what happened was I said, oh, he's got everyone's, Norman Reedus has a big line. Most of the other members just 4, 6 people, and here's Nick Carter who has a line of like 40 girls going down, like, and I'm like, I'm not waiting in this. I'll just come back in about 2 or 3 hours.
Right.
And so after meeting all the Sons of Anarchy and going to these different panels and all, we end up going back to him, and we noticed, they're packing up. And I said, I asked this one of the volunteers. I said, where's Nick at? And she said, he's going home. She said he's had a rough day, and he just left. And I was like, huh. And so we're walking, and we started seeing all these girls gather around talking about Nick. And I go up to him, and I'm just listening. And she says, like, I kissed Nick Carter on the lips and held his face, while kissing him. And she's bragging about it, going off. And there was never really an explanation why he just left. He was scheduled to be there Saturday and Sunday, and he was only there for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours on the Saturday, and he just left randomly. But supposedly from this other group of girls, they were saying that he got upset about the situation. He was embarrassed because he was with his wife, at the time and everything, and she wasn't there, but she was home with the baby, and so they said he had left because of that supposedly, and that was pretty upsetting because my girlfriend hadn't met Nick. I mean, we high fived, fist bumped multiple times in Vegas. We did all that so many times with all the members, but I was hoping to get her to meet him just like I did, in New Orleans, except maybe better circumstances and not, wait till the show and then pay $150 for a photo.
Can you imagine like what that's like, dude? Like, okay, so they talk about AJ and Kevin's spiel on stage during their solos or whatever, where they're like, you guys used to throw bras and panties up. We're going to return the favor, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, they do that because that's what the fans want to see and want to hear. You know what I mean? They get a reaction out of them. But like when you're on a one-on-one, you know what I mean? And like, that's what you do. Like, can you imagine? I mean, that's essentially like if that was the other way around and that was a female artist and a male, they'd have stalker charges and harassment charges. I mean, it's just like you're a celebrity. I get that, but like you're like I said with AJ, you're human. You know what I mean? Like that's crazy to me, dude.
Yeah. And they all have they all have wives and they have children, and I mean they do kiss, they kiss their fans on the cheek, or they'll let them kiss on the cheek and things like that. But you don't disrespect a woman's husband. You don't disrespect him, and you don't disrespect his wife. By doing that kind of stuff. And
Agreed.
After. And he had the biggest line. It was nonstop. And it's just, there's no way he would have left, with any other reason, but she said, he had a situation. And I'm like, man, that's when those girls were saying, and I was like, well, that's just great.
Yeah.
That's just great. It's a shame because we ended up not being able to meet him, and I did meet Tobin Bell from Saw, plays Jigsaw and things like that, but it was such a memorable weekend because, like I said, we had saw their off Vegas show in Atlanta, which is the same thing except for the crazy thing is I remember watching it and everybody was so angry. They announced they were the headliners. They had Grace Wonderfall. They had Fergie, Flo Rida, another person, and then they said the Backstreet Boys were going to close it out with being the headliner. So everybody got the first, actually all of them got about 30 to 45 minutes apiece. And the Backstreet Boys came on and only performed like 6 songs.
I heard about that, actually. I heard about that.
It's such a big thing because the people in charge, they were never clear about that. Multiple fans asked, how long are they performing? They're the headliners, but what does that mean? And they're like, oh, they're going to give you a full show. They only performed for 40 minutes, a little less than 40.
That was a big deal, man. That was all over the news and everything. I remember seeing that, dude.
Because, like, I mean, it was basically, they did, I remember, I think it was like maybe 6 songs, might have been 8 songs, but it was not a full show, and nobody wanted to see Fergie perform for 45.
Right.
And it was just, I mean, I enjoyed it because I got to see Vegas, and 4 or 5 months before that, so it was okay. But I was still upset that we went all the way to Atlanta just to go see that, only to see him for 45 minutes.
Right.
So
I got two things. You and I differ on one thing. I'll get to that. But first, so I met AJ like I told you. And then just a few weeks ago, which you wanted to come down for, we went to the Howie D musical. Right.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it was so good, by the way. But first thing, so after the thing, we got front row to that too, by the way. It was awesome. I'm taking pictures with these people that I met at concerts and all that. I'm that guy, the guy in the crowd. So after the show, I had heard I had been watching a bunch of I say blogs like I'm an old man, but the Facebook feed saying that sometimes he'll stick around and all that and come out into the lobby. So their tour manager lady, I can't remember her name. Anyways, I went up to her and I'm like, hey, can I get a picture with the lady that does all the hard work? And she's like, oh my God, you want a picture with me? I'm like, heck yeah, I want a picture with you. So I took a picture with her. And then I asked her, I'm like, so does he come back out or all that? She goes, well, after the meet and greets, he'll come out, maybe, And I'm like, all right, well, we'll hang around. So we're just hanging around. And I met her at the Omaha show too. But we're sitting in the lobby. And then she's looking at me. I look over at the wife. And the wife's on the phone with my mom because my mom was watching the kids. And then she walks over to me. And she's like, hey, I had 2 people back out of their meet and greets. And I look at her. I'm like, no, you didn't. She's like, well, let's just say I had 2 people back out of their meet and greets. Do you want to meet Howie? And I'm like, hell yeah. So we go in. All the girls that I was talking to before that I told them I didn't have meet and greets, now they see me walk in. I'm not joking. The only dude in the meet and greet section. And he had like a Q&A, you know what I mean? And it was awesome, dude. And then I go up and take a picture with him. And my wife like videotapes the me waiting in line, and I look over and I'm like, I might throw up. She's like, don't puke, don't puke. I'm like, I might cry. I got him to wear this hat and all that. It was awesome. But what I wanted to ask you, so what we differ on is I like the Vegas concert better. Okay, so let me clear the air. I love the DNA tour. Okay, I've watched it, all the videos. I thought it was amazing. I'm going again, which I'm still trying to get you and the wife to come to in Kansas. Yeah, we got Pitt for that too. You know what I mean? I love it. DNA's remarkable, but I personally liked Vegas better. And I was at front row for both, just like you, right up against the railing. I like the intimacy of it, the close environment, the smelling of the fog. I'll never get that out of my mind. I like the setup better. I like the set list better. But tell me why you prefer, okay, outside of it being massive arenas and all that, why do you like the DNA show better?
You said, tell me why.
I did. What are the chances we'd be doing a podcast? Go on.
Well, no, so, like, I guess because, Vegas was more about nostalgia, and I was okay with that because I loved every single song I could have thought of was on that set list. Yep. And the DNA, the DNA tour, there was a lot of songs that said, boy, I wish they would do this, and they did it. I don't know. To me, Vegas was shorter. I mean, well, it was shorter. It was like, I don't know, without the music video introduction. It was I don't know, an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 25. It was
you're talking about short. The Mega Mash or whatever.
Yeah.
I love that video, by the way.
I like it too, but I'm like, man, that's 20 minutes they could have been performing.
yeah.
Like 10 songs,
But no, Vegas was an hour and a half though.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it was. It was. But I mean, I felt like it was good because that was what, if you weren't fans of Backstreet Boys, come here and see, every song you remember as a child or every teenager or young adult.
There's no deep cuts. There's no deep cuts at Vegas. Right. Yeah, I get that.
Which is okay because it worked out so well with the nostalgia of it. I mean, you're listening, you're like, oh man, like this is truly remarkable, Yeah. Now I'll tell you one of my main points why I prefer DNA. For the Vegas tour, for the Vegas run, we went And the whole time we were being like harassed by girls because they were like, "Oh, how are y'all front? Y'all are not VIP," and all this crazy nonsense. And they were really, really mean and nasty to me and my girlfriend. This is our first concert of Backstreet Boys together, and
I had some girl dump a beer in. I'm not messing with you, Caleb. In my pocket. I'm not playing,
that's
dude.
terrible.
She was mad
Well,
because I got a high five from everybody, and then she's like, "Let me up front." I'm like, I turned around, and I said, "I've waited 24 years for this. You should have gotten here early." And then she dumped a beer in my pocket. Anyways, go on. Sorry.
Man, that's terrible, man.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, like I'm looking across like we are right now, and I just remember the front row of these girls, before the show starts. Oh, I've been here 4 times or 12 times or not, it was like a ridiculous amount, all of them bragging about it. And they're in the front row. And while I remember watching them in particular, like this 6 to 7 girls in the front. I remember watching them during the show, putting on makeup, looking in the mirror,
Yep.
looking bored, looking like they're
Yep.
privileged. And it truly disgusted me because I said, and here I am just like bawling and just like, oh my goodness, like, hi.
Yeah. 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 Just
Like,
just fanboying. Yeah. No, I get it.
you know, and then you have these girls and it's just like and I hate to say girls because it was girls, there was no guys, very, very few guys, there was no guys doing that kind of stuff, all the guys are like, yeah, I can dig this, yeah, I'll be the one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know but it's, I don't know. And then we go to DNA, and the first stop we did was New Orleans, and we had done row 9 on the floor on the right side, and it was just like everybody was just so down to earth, so funny, so cool around us, and they were just
Yeah.
so great. And then, but for our second date, like 3 or 4 days before, we started seeing messages, who's going to the Lafayette stop, and we're like, we are. And we made friends, multiple different people. We all just met up in the circle. We got DNA circle. The funny thing is, we bought row 10 for Lafayette for floor. 2 days before, Ticketmaster upgraded seats. They were doing upgrades to seats. So I called and paid another, I think it was $20 a ticket.
Oh,
And I
totally
got
worth it.
DNA
Totally worth it.
circle.
Yeah.
And so, we ended up meeting these random people from the actual KTB SPA group and all. And we all became the best of friends. Like everybody in the circle was cool. No one was really like going crazy, like pushing each other and just, being hateful and spiteful.
Right.
And it was, I guess because I just had a better experience. And I found, I don't know, DNA was just so edgy. The Vegas run was kind of clean in a sense, and DNA was like, they were celebrating their DNA album, so it had all this, new love and things a little more grindy,
Yeah.
and also, like I said, the old songs that I love, like, it's just, I don't know. I guess because the experience was, had a better experience more than anything in these two other places versus Vegas. Vegas, it just seemed like, and I'm sure I'll get a lot of flack about this, but Vegas just seemed like all the snobs were together in this one section that we were.
Yeah. I
And I
could see
hated
that. I could see that. But okay. So your point about the DNA show and then the group that we met in, the Keep the Backstreet Pride Alive group. So
it.
um
Oh,
this
that's what
I
it
think
means.
yeah, I think I think this leads into the next good point. Um so the reason that I am such a fan, I think, well, one of the reasons is the kind of team calamity. I hate to use that word, but
Yeah.
that Backstreet brings together. I mean, you see things on Twitter, you know, they'll retweet my videos all the time. Like the fans are more like a family. You know what I mean? Like for you and I, take be an example. When I was posting that everybody's complaining about ticket prices, and I'm just happy that I get to see him again. And I posted that video and how he liked it, by the way, the day before I saw him in Omaha. You had messaged me, I think, and all you said was, "I'm glad I'm not the only guy who loves the Backstreet Boys as much as I do." And from that point on, we've talked to each other every single day. You know? So, and I think you've brought up a few points throughout our friendship that really hits home, and that's, you know, people will just randomly message you, you know. So I think that's the reason that they're on a 27-year run. You know what I'm saying? Is their I mean, they talk about it all the time, but other bands talk about their fans constantly, and it's just what they have to do. You know what I mean? I think they don't have to tour anymore, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're set.
Yeah,
There's no question. You know what I mean? They've got their 90s and 2000s money. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not AJ so much, that he might have blown a little bit of that. But.
Maybe not 90s or Lou Pearlman taking everything.
Oh, let's talk about that before we move on to our next topic. Did you watch the 60 Minutes thing on him? Well, I mean, it's the same thing pretty much from the.
I did not. I did watch In a World Like This about 500 times.
Oh, show them what you're made of. That my bad.
Oh yeah. All right, show them what you're made of. Yeah.
So I've watched it too, but it's pretty much the same footage. But you might be able to help me out with this. So it was Brian that initially filed the suit, correct?
Yeah, it was.
And then everybody else just kind of signed on. Now, was that like the same year that NSYNC did their thing? Not to cross genres, but.
Oh, that's okay. We can cross genres. I don't know about that. I don't know what. Let's see. I mean, because whenever Brian, let's see. So I don't know when they filed the suit.
Because here's what I'm trying to get at. They dropped Millennium before they cut ties with Pearlman, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then NSYNC dropped No Strings Attached because they dropped that as their, you know, No Strings Attached to Pearlman anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know because you know, it's a sour, you know. I mean, we really don't even have all the answers. It was really, to me, it was just a small snippet of, like, you know, showing what you're made of documentary. I really wish we knew a lot more, because I know Lou Pearlman took everything. I mean, like they said they were making millions, or they were supposed to have hundreds of thousands of dollars a piece, and they had $5,000 or $1,000, you know. But what a con man!
What a con man! It turns out the airplanes that he was selling weren't even real. You know what I mean? They were models. That's wild, dude.
That is insane.
He's a smart ass con man, but he's a con man.
Yeah, he was smart until he got caught.
Yeah. Okay, so my next point that I had jotted down here, we still got time. We're at about 40 minutes, which flew by the way. Just two friends talking. But if there was a tour that you didn't go on, because we both acknowledged that our first Backstreet concert was Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
What would be? Let's take Millennium out of it, okay? Because obviously that's the one that we would all want to go to. Yeah. What would be the tour that you wish you could go back in time and see front row?
I don't know, man. You know, as a kid, young kid, I remember watching on TV the Black and Blue. You know, Black and Blue tour. They were all. I wouldn't say they were all drugged out, but AJ was.
It sure looks like it.
He was water at people and just, you know,
down in the front. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just lifting up his shirt and just he was wild and out at that time. It was
Johnny
amazing.
No Name, man. Johnny No Name.
Oh man, you know, even like Nick Nick was at that point of time, you could just tell like they were exhausted. His voice was like squeaky, whiny, but at the same time edgy and hardcore. It was like he was trying to do both at the same time. I mean, Black and Blue just was remarkable. But honestly, I would choose Black and Blue, but at the same time, I would say This Is Us as well.
Bro,
Damn, yeah.
We are literally two of the same person. Because I would say This Is Us, but okay, let's just get into it. The Kevin thing, right?
Yeah.
We got to save some content for next week's episode, but the Kevin thing. I personally, okay, so Kevin's like 2 of my posts in the last week, so I can't say anything bad about it, but I can't tell the difference in the albums. You being a musical engineer and all that, you could probably tell. Me personally, I've watched like the DVD, not the DVDs, the behind the scenes of This Is Us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The boys were still having fun. I mean,
yeah.
And I thought the music was good. I love If I Knew Then. I love PDA. I love it. That PDA song could be on the DNA album. It's that kind of song.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
So coming from the musical background that you're from, can you tell the difference without the 5th member? I mean, they always talk about that it's a Backstreet sound, and I get it. I understand it. I can't tell the difference.
The thing is, without Kevin, they had to do it different arrangements. I mean, it's like having the Four Seasons, sing Sherry without their bass.
Gotcha.
Where he's like, or Big Girls Don't Cry when he's like, why don't you come out? Like, without that, the song would be less iconic. So like when it comes down to Kevin and his sound, me personally, I hear it. I do.
I knew you would. Just knowing you, I knew you would.
I mean, I remember I think it was AJ who was doing a lot of the lows, which is great too. But like he's supposed to be doing another part.
Yeah. But the I Want It That Way, I dig Howie singing Kevin's part.
Me too. Yeah,
I think Howie personally. Okay, so he was always my least favorite, but lately, the wife and I were just talking about this like a week ago. He has such a good voice, bro.
He does. It hasn't changed at all.
No, and okay, so that now I'm hopping around. But the last thing I want to talk about, which won't be our last thing now, but I like their mature voices outside of Brian, obviously, we'll talk about that next episode. Love him to death, by the way, but he's probably he's probably the funniest, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyways, I like AJ's voice better. I like this is again where we're gonna differ. I like Nick's voice better.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, when it comes down to it, their mature voices and their early voices, the only difference is they didn't have a lot, especially when starting up, even with Millennium. They were touring so much, so they were exhausted. They were young. Nick just used to strain as much as he can. And now they, especially AJ, and AJ is a perfect example. They have so much control over their voice.
Range, right?
Yeah, range is insane for, officially all being 40 and over. It's remarkable because, recently there was a video that came out, and I had sent it to you, the concert of DNA concert in Argentina. And it was perfect quality.
Love it.
So the most insane thing is while we were watching the other night, every single time I'm like, I'm sitting next to Vicky, I'm like, you hear Kevin? You hear Kevin? Like, and because when you're doing this live streaming mixing, the mixing is going to be off, it's going to be on, but you hear every single member.
Right.
singing those lines, and you hear Kevin, singing his lines, and when it's all said and done, I don't know. I enjoy both their voices, but I enjoy how well they replicate how they used to sound, how they sound now, and it's just I think it's a cool thing, man.
Yeah,
It
I
really
agree.
is.
I agree, and I think that's what makes them different from other bands.
What makes
So
it different?
right, and I've got into it with a few people before when they're like, I don't get it. This will lead right
Yeah,
into our next talking point. That I don't get your fandom. Are you really that big of a fan, or are you just? I'm like, do you think I'm? I don't get embarrassed. I don't give a crap. I like who I like, just like people like who they like. But I've talked about it with like my family members. I'm like, you tell me another band that's toured nonstop. I mean, every single time there's an album, 10 albums, bro, 10 albums. So you tell me another band that from when you're a child that you can go watch that you enjoy the voices just as much as you did then, and they can't. I mean, I'll get into it with older people. Like, are you telling me ZZ Top sounds the exact same? You know what I mean? Like, you telling me that Alice in Chains doesn't have different members in their group? Right? They have the same singers, same everything. I don't know.
and it's really difficult to sound the same because I mean, just like when we were kids and now, like there's no way we're gonna replicate how we used to sound. And I was watching a video earlier where I was like talking at this church camp maybe 12 years ago, 10 years ago, and I was like trying to replicate how I used to sound, and I'm like, no, this ain't working. But
Right.
I mean, one of my favorite bands. I gotta admire the guy because they've been through so much as a band. It's Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
And actual, he's lost a lot of weight. He's learned to kind of control his breathing better. Now he still sounds like Mickey Mouse now, but 4 years ago when I saw him in New Orleans, he sounded almost exactly the same as he does on the album. Now he's a bit more tired. It's been 4 years. They've been on the same tour, not another Lifetime or something tour. 4 years straight, nonstop. So he's got that Mickey Mouse move.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I try to replicate it, but it's really terrible. Um, but yeah, truthfully, for me, people I have been called names my whole life. Backstreet Boys. I mean, I grew up, singing and doing all their routines. I mean, I got the chairs in the back. I could do as long as you let me chair dance, whole routine right now. It's just, it's the coolest thing when you're at a wedding or a party doing it. But anytime else, you're called names and you're blasted for doing something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my old group of friends, oh man, they would give me so much flack for it. I still, I mean, even people that I work with, like, they don't get it. My family members get, like my uncles who I look up to, they give me a lot of shit too. But it's to me, man, it's never mattered. Like, I don't care who you like, I don't care who you like. For me, it's the lyrical genius behind it, the the
Max Martin.
integrity. Yeah, dude. Yeah, Max. I mean, look at who he's all wrote for. You know what I mean?
It's insane. Yeah.
I enjoy being able to hold on to something. You know what I mean? Being able to look back. My mom has video on VHS tapes of me dancing around, singing the Millennium, and nothing's changed for me there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
if anything, my fandom's gotten bigger. So it
Oh,
is what it is, man.
yeah. And I mean, the crazy thing about it is like, just, we're I mean, we're old enough now, but like when we were young, like we used to see those VHS tapes, and it's all these young girls, all these young guys, and moms and stuff. And it's like those same people, they've been through all this craziness in their life. They're like 40, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, now. And of all the things that have gone in their life, and they're still huge fans. Like we see it all the time in the group. People are like, yeah, I'm on this 4 minute 80 20-second mark on the Millennium, You know,
Yeah.
that's me as a little girl. And, you know, here I am today in this big group, you know, celebrating who I still love to this day, you know. And I mean, I think, you know, I don't think I'm ever going to grow tired. Like, I listen to them on Spotify every single day. I sing 24/7 for Backstreet Boys songs and other songs, but mostly BSB. And it's, I don't know, they've gotten me through so much in my life to
Same
where,
here.
you know, it's just like, you know, it's like the song, you know, it's without you, I'll be incomplete. Because like I think a big part of my life and where the direction that I'm heading into my life and the decisions I've done in my life, it was just, I don't know, the Backstreet Boys contribute to those, you know, decisions that I made in my life. And
Yeah, man.
you know, I'm also not a drinker. I've never drank alcohol in my life. Never tried it, not even a sip of it. Not a smoker because I was so concerned about my voice. And I mean, I love to sing. You know, I'm known to always be singing everywhere I go, and I'm so, you know, concerned with my voice and just always making sure it's top notch, which is usually not because I'm always singing, I'm always talking. So people are just like, you know, rest your voice. Rest. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. Let me sing another song, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, it's I don't know, man. It's a really, really cool thing to like after all these years to be as big as a fan as I was as a child to now, you know.
I agree. And the music quality that they're bringing, man, it's really something special. And I think that's
Oh,
something that I cling on to, you know.
which
Uh,
I'm gonna ask you, what was I'm gonna go ahead and just ask you now, what was your most favorite album and least favorite? Because I do have both. I do.
my least favorite is probably Unbreakable.
Yeah.
Uh, Numerous reasons why, but I there's just nothing on that album. Incomplete's on that album, right?
No, I was never gone.
Never Gone.
Yeah.
Damn, how did I not know that? Anyways,
Yeah.
there's just nothing on Unbreakable that really stood out to me. My favorite album is probably In a World Like This, which is probably a
That's
least
a
I
lot. That's a lot of people's least favorite.
yeah. And I love In a World Like This. I think the fact that they wrote the majority of it, it was on their record label, you know. And to me it was more of a we're back. You know what I mean? Not that like no pun intended, they were never gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I know, I know. Look at me go, baby. I think in a world like this, I like the instrument behind it. I like the I'm so mad I didn't go to the tour. I'm so mad. But
Me
uh
too. Yeah. So,
what's your least favorite and your most favorite?
my most favorite is probably Millennium, because it's every single song is a hit. Even
It's all a banger.
I don't care what they say. If you want it to be good girl, get yourself a bad boy. You know, they can hate that song because they don't understand it, but the fans love it. The
Yeah.
fans want to hear it. So like this DNA part of the tour, they need to do it.
And you know they won't. You know they won't.
Yeah, no, they won't. They do it on the cruises, and they're miserable. Or you know, Nick does it when he's DJing, you know, for the after parties, and they're miserable. Like, he doesn't
Yeah.
want to do it, you know. But I mean, my least favorite, man. You know, believe it or not, I don't know. I would probably have to say DNA.
I was gonna lean that way, dude. I really was, but
Yeah,
No Place, Chances, Don't Go
yeah.
Breaking My
No,
Heart.
no, the songs are phenomenal, but it's just some of them were like, now here's the thing. New Love. I was like, what is this garbage?
I don't
That
like
was my
New Love, and I don't like Passionate.
I didn't like New Love until I saw him do it live. When he first says, "Who are you, the sex police?" I was like, all right.
Game over.
I said, all right, like this is actually I'm digging this now, and the way they perform. but the DNA, it was great, but a lot of them, like New Love and Passionate, I was like, it's so well. Passionate was just very, very overly done with the effects and all, and even though they can replicate it perfectly live, I just didn't think it was a Backstreet Boys sound of a
Agreed.
song.
Agreed.
You know, and I just, and truthfully, I think a big part of DNA reason why now, like I said, Chances, Don't Go Breaking My Heart, those two are my absolute top 10 if I had to have a top 10, which my top 10 would consist of at least 40 or 50 songs, but
Yeah, we've talked about this.
they are the absolute, like, top 10, especially Chances is phenomenal.
I
It's a
love it.
back
I love it.
song.
I love Brian's parts in it, man. I love it.
But but for the DNA, um, another huge thing was, once again, Brian is sidelined, and like I said, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But he's very much, this time he was put forward for one or two lines, and every now and then with a different song, but he was very much sidelined again, but not really by choice. But and it's a good thing they did that. There's multiple reasons why, but I don't know. I think, and don't get me wrong, I do love the DNA album, but it is definitely one of my disliked album
Yeah.
of the Backstreet Boys. But I mean, still, I listen to it every single day,
So do
every
I.
single.
So do
But
I.
I do songs. Here's why. This is another reason. I skip songs, and I don't ever skip songs from the Backstreet Boys.
Yep. I can relate to that. I can relate
Yeah.
to that. My kids' favorite songs are okay. They'll replicate the clapping part of it and shit, and it's really cute to watch. I put a video on the group with it, but
July. Vicky loves
let's
okay.
end on this last note. Where do you have your tickets for right now for the second leg?
The second leg is going to be in Woodlands, Texas, so Houston, Texas, north of Houston, and also in Alpharetta, Georgia, once again.
And
Yeah.
Topeka, Kansas, and or Wichita, Kansas. Yeah.
Yes, I'm working on doing that. We got to make that. We do. We really do have to make that happen.
I think we can do an in-person podcast in the hotel before and then after the show and release them different weeks.
During this show.
Oh, bro, live stream.
Say, I'll be the one.
Yeah, bro. As you know, that is my all-time favorite Backstreet Boys song.
Yes.
So I have tickets to Wichita, Kansas.
Just one?
Yeah, just one. You broke motherfucker. Yeah. Okay, how about this? I'll go to your show. You come to my show.
I can do that.
There we go. I've never been to the Bayou.
Oh, well, we ain't got none over here, but Houston's only 4 hours away, so we're gonna drive.
Houston will be closer for me, I think, than what Louisiana would be anyway.
Yeah.
For everybody watching, I'm still not 100% sure that Caleb Bryan knows where Nebraska is, but that's a minute point at this point in the game.
I truly know. I thought you were in Kansas. I thought it was the same state.
I told Caleb, I said, you take a dart, you throw it at the middle of a map, you're in Nebraska. He goes, yeah, so pretty much Kansas. Anyways, what effect do you think the COVID-19 coronavirus is going to have on these shows?
Well, my biggest fear of it would be that it's canceled or postponed, which is why I'm afraid to even get flights anywhere else.
But right now, flights are stupidly cheap.
Yes. And they're stupidly cheap because they know the Backstreet Boys might postpone their tour.
Yeah, that's what American Airlines is doing. Smart people.
My biggest fear is, the other night, they were in another country, and they were in Brazil, and they had to postpone it. I think it was the day before, the night before, and that's scary, man. That's heartbreaking. Especially
yeah, man.
Waited their whole life to see them, And I know it's not something that they're doing, it's their doing. It's really not. But I don't know what's going to happen because I don't know if I'm going to wake up tomorrow only to find out that we're going to be on lockdown in the state of Louisiana. You know, it's a weird, crazy situation. I never thought I'd live through. You
I
know,
agree. I agree. I don't think anybody has.
yeah,
The good, well, okay, not the good, but if there is a positive note, it finally got me and you to do this podcast because you can't do
yeah.
anything else.
So I said, well, I said we're stuck at home. Let me finish boiling some crawfish, and we can go ahead and do a little podcasting tonight.
Right. That's right. My wife's like, "Are you guys gonna do it now that you can't leave the house?" I was like, "Yeah, man.
So,
I've been begging Caleb since noon today."
yeah, I know. He was like, now, 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4
Give the
p.m.
people what they want, Caleb.
The millions of people, the billions of people, what they
The
want,
soon to be
and
billions
we,
of fans.
and now we are. That's the best thing.
That's
They
right.
can't say we haven't.
Um, so with that being said, we have just crossed the hour mark, and it feels like we've only been talking for 15 minutes, and that's what friends do. Uh, we are planning to release one of these a week. Okay, and if we get together, we'll record a few of them together and then just release them out weekly. We will add effects, we will add intros, but we wanted to get a pilot one down and make sure we had everything working. And then maybe on next week's episode, we can start it off with Caleb saying, "Oh my God, we're back again," or something crazy like that.
Everybody.
Oh,
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh
uh,
Lord.
but for now, you guys have been tuned in to the Frickin' Frack Show, episode 1, the pilot. We'll come up with a name for it. Maybe it'll be called "What Are the Chances?" Because what are the chances that somebody like Caleb and I would have met and rolled this thing out for y'all? But signing off, I'm Matthew Taylor.
And I'm Caleb Bryan.
And this has been the Frickin' Frack Show. Peace, love.
Bye, guys.